One day I was being very productive scrolling on Twitter, at 3 in the morning. But instead of some creepypasta happening, I actually stumbled upon a tweet made by the official Nintendo Twitter account, and after reading it, they just straight up revealed that the Switch's successor is on the way. Now most of us already figured that because a bunch of people have supposedly been leaking info, and let's just say this year's games look like a final year sort of selection. Only Tomodachi Life can save us now. But yeah, according to this tweet, before the end of the year, we will know what the Switch 2 will be like. However, that does give us a lot of time to speculate, so I thought, hey, why don't I do just that? Today I'm going to be going over some of my predictions for what the Switch 2 will be and also what games we may see at launch. On top of that, I thought it would be fun to look at some of your predictions as well, so I asked for some in the community tab and I picked a few that I thought would be the most interesting. Also, just FYI, I don't really like keeping up with leaks much, so if my predictions are wildly off from what the leaks are saying, they're wrong. I'm always right, listen to me. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right in. Alright, so first things first, what do I think the console itself will be like? I mean, unlike PlayStation for example, Nintendo's consoles vary wildly from one another. However, that's only the case when looking at the home consoles. Looking at the handhelds, they usually don't change that much. I mean, the DS and 3DS are both quite similar, and to be honest, I think they're going to take that approach here. In their tweet, they specifically say the Switch's successor, so that's why I'm thinking this will basically just be a Switch 2. They honestly may not even change the general design much, besides adding some more features onto the console's version of the Joy-Con. I mean, the Nintendo Switch is one of the most successful video game consoles of all time, so I don't feel like they'll want to stray too far from what made it great. I mean, if the successor doesn't have the handheld and home console functionality, I'd find that extremely disappointing. Since I think the Switch 2 will be so similar to the original Switch, I also predict that it'll be backwards compatible with games made for the original Switch. The 3DS could play DS games, so I don't see any reason why the new Switch 2 wouldn't be able to do the same. You know, after saying all that, I think I basically just described what the Wii U was to the Wii. Uh-oh. Moving on from the basic components of the console, what about the basic features of it when it's turned on? Well, for starters, I don't think we're going to be getting actual themes, and I will personally find that very funny. I mean, we've had just these two options since the Switch launched, and Nintendo does not seem interested at all in making more for us. Lucky for all you cosmetic people though, I believe all of the profile stuff will carry over from the Switch to the Switch 2. I'm guessing the Switch 2 will just use the same Nintendo account as the original Switch because it would be incredibly unnecessary to have us make entirely new ones. Again. For that reason, I also believe Nintendo Switch Online will still be a requirement for online play here. On the plus side though, I'm also choosing to believe that means all of the current Switch Online titles will be available at, or very close to the launch of the Switch 2. No more waiting 10 years for Mario Kart Super Circuit! There are also plenty of other consoles for Nintendo to still draw from for the service, and I think we will finally see a GameCube Online within a year of the system's launch. Now I'm also sort of on the fence on if this would release for the original Switch as well. If it does, I think it'll come after it does on the Switch too, in order to encourage people to buy it for that first. As for the games I think it'll launch with, those would be Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, Mario Kart Double Dash, The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, Metroid Prime, and Pikmin. They definitely wait to release Zelda Twilight Princess separate from Wind Waker, and even though it is the best-selling game on the GameCube, I think Super Smash Bros. Melee would not be there at launch. Considering we don't even have Smash 64 yet, I think they'd release that first and they'll wait for Melee later. During that year, I also predict they'll release Mario Party 4 and Animal Crossing, since those are two other massive titles for the GameCube that would drum up excitement. Also, I'm sure they'd probably release some obscure games with it too, but I only play Mario and Zelda. I'm a Nintendo YouTuber, guys, I haven't heard of anything else. But I believe now it's time to think about what is going to be this console's launch game. This is very important in getting people to actually have a reason to go out and buy this thing. I mean, one of the reasons I think the Switch is so successful is because of its fantastic launch title and its constant releases throughout the year. The Switch of course released with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is one of the biggest games Nintendo has ever made. With that being said though, I don't think we're going to be seeing a Zelda game at launch again. I mean, just last year we got Tears of the Kingdom, which took 6 years to release after Breath of the Wild. If we're assuming the Switch 2 comes out next year, then it seems unlikely we get a new 3D Zelda game within the year. Now there were a lot of adjectives thrown on there, so we could change them up a bit and still end up getting a Zelda game within the Switch 2's launch year. First, a new 2D Zelda game doesn't seem impossible, but also it certainly wouldn't be a game Nintendo relies on for the launch. I mean, 2D Zeldas are fun, but not system sellers these days. One other thing we could see though, and what I'm choosing to place my bet on, is an old 3D Zelda game. In other words, I think we might be getting a new remake. Now it may seem weird to say, but I think it may be time to get Ocarina of Time HD. If it seems like we just got the 3DS version, the gap between the original and the remake is now smaller than the gap between the remake and now. Yeah, time is weird. No way, that's like the game! Also, I'd love for this to be a Majora's Mask remake instead, but I'd certainly be more than happy with an Ocarina of Time HD, especially since that'd likely eventually lead to a Majora's Mask HD later down the line. But a remake is not something that could ride an entire console launch on, so what are some other franchises? Well, I'm feeling pretty confident that the launch game will involve my main man Super Mario. But how? Well, right away I'm striking off a 2D Mario game. We just got Mario Wonder, and while there has been smaller gaps between 2D Mario games before, People didn't like that very much. So currently I'm between a 3D Mario and a new Mario Kart. Personally, I do think both are going to come out within the first year. I mean, that's what they did with the Switch, and that seemed to work out pretty well. But which one do I think they'll do first at launch? I think for this, I'm gonna have to go with Mario Kart. That is just a series you always want near the launch of a console because of it being a perfect multiplayer game. And that would bring up a concern for people who want to play single player games, but that's what I think the 3D Mario game will cover a few months later. Now I also want to rapid fire through a few other big series and if I think they'll get a game within the launch year or not. First up, Pokemon. Yes, absolutely. They're not releasing a main series game in 2024, and I don't think they'd be able to hold back another year. I mean, I don't know what I would do without my yearly fix of Pikachu. This would likely be their holiday game, whereas I think the 3D Mario I mentioned will be a bit closer to the system launch. Splatoon could go either way, honestly. There have been relatively short gaps between the releases so far, so Splatoon 4 releasing during the launch year is certainly plausible. I don't personally think we'll see either Smash Bros or Animal Crossing. Smash Bros can usually carry discussion by itself for an entire year, so that seems more like a year 2 title. I mean, I don't want the new 3D Mario to be overshadowed when they add Freddy Fazbear to Smash. I could see a 2D Kirby game coming within the year, especially since I'm predicting there won't be a 2D Mario. Finally, I also think Metroid Prime 4 will pull a Breath of the Wild and release both on Switch and Switch 2. I kind of forgot they announced that game. But I think it's about time I take a look at some of the wacky predictions you all made on the community page. Just like in my nitpicks video, I didn't just pick the predictions I agree with, but the ones I found to be the most interesting. Now, I don't have too many this time around since most people had pretty similar predictions to mine, which is understandable, but there were a few that I did think were pretty interesting. Starting off with the top comment on the community post, Mantra78 says, I'm not even a multiplayer kind of guy, but if actual voice chat is implemented, that'll be pretty cool. Insert cool Bowser if you want. Also, backwards compatibility would be nice. Now, you've already mentioned backwards compatibility, but in-game voice chat is not something I've brought up yet. To be honest though, I don't see it happening. Nintendo wants to keep their brand as family friendly as possible, and if you start letting random people onto the mic, who knows what horrible things they'll say. Now, I personally would love to have voice chat, not that I'd use it much, but having the option would be nice. I just can't see Nintendo risking their family-friendly reputation on it, especially since voice chat on Xbox, for example, is known for being quite toxic. Our next comment comes from It's Johnny Boy, who says, I really hope they add music to the eShop and the menu to give the console some personality. Plus, the option to choose unique themes would be pretty cool to have as well. I would also love to see a cool Bowser theme. This one I am super on board for. Ever since the Switch launched, people have hated how empty the Switch's eShop feels without any music playing. It almost feels eerie when compared to the others. I mean, let's just take a look at Wii's. And then the Switch. Now, as for if I think it will happen, it's a 50-50 in my opinion. Clearly, the lack of eShop music did not stop sales for the original Switch, but people certainly did make it clear that the lack of music was disappointing. Since I'm feeling a bit positive today, I think I'm going to say yes, the Switch 2 will have eShop music. And on top of that, the Mii Maker will also get music too. Oh wait, I guess the fact that the Switch 2 would even have Mii's is a separate prediction. Even though they clearly aren't as important now as they were in the Wii and Wii U era, so many games still use them that it'd feel bizarre not to have a Mii Maker, so I say there's a 99% chance they're staying. TrevMuso5 says, return of a camera. Now, this is a feature they desperately need. I can't wait to film wacky videos with this thing. To be honest, I kind of doubt they'd include this. Most people I know never use the camera on the other consoles that have them, so they just act as a way to drive up the price. Snap Twitch 7361 says, Switch bomb. Demoman 4335 says, I really hate how Smash 6 is a possibility. Ultimate feels like the perfect Smash game, and I don't really think I'm ready for another Smash yet. Now, I have seen a lot of people, especially on Twitter, have this take, and I absolutely do not get it. A lot of people will be like, oh, I just hate the Smash Bros. New fighter discourse. I don't want them to make a new game. Shut up. Just stop looking at it. They don't have to cancel the series. Also, this is a major side tangent, but I hear a lot of people say they want the next Smash game to have less fighters, and I just think that's incredibly stupid. It's fun to speculate who will and won't make the cut, but actively wishing for there to be less content just seems absurd to me. Many say it's so that they can have a better focus on the returning cast to improve their movesets, and I'm gonna be honest, they don't need to cut half the roster to make Ganondorf have his float. And also, I'd say 80% of the roster has perfectly fine movesets. There definitely are a few that suck, but most of them are fine or need like one move tweaked. I've also heard people say, oh, 90 characters is just too many matchups to learn. Well, maybe if you got off Twitter and stopped complaining, you'd actually have some time to learn the game. Okay, anyway. Smash 6 or Ultimate Deluxe will be very awesome, and I can't wait to see it on Switch too. Big Febby says, there won't be a mainline Mario launch title. No! StarMiss8307 says, I hope we get achievements for games. I figured it works like how trophies do on PlayStation 5, where if you do something in game, you get a notification that you earn an achievement, and you get to earn something like a profile picture or exclusive theme as a reward for 100%. I totally did not think of this, but yes, I would be absolutely on board with this. Achievements in games have always been some of my favorite things, as they have the opportunities to both reward players for going through the game, but also give players many side challenges to attempt that they wouldn't have otherwise. Sadly, the only game I've ever played that has them is Minecraft. I've been super jealous of Xbox and PlayStation having these forever, and it just feels like something Nintendo should include too. Sadly though, it's been so long since the introduction of console achievements that I kinda think Nintendo just won't do it. I would be very happy to get proven wrong though, and I also don't think it's impossible, just unlikely. I also think Starmus had really good ideas for the rewards too. We already see Nintendo make a lot of custom profile pictures for Nintendo Switch Online, so letting us be able to purchase them through achievement points could be cool. Alternatively, having specific profile pictures tied to specific achievements would be cool as well. Maybe instead of profile pictures, they could be badges you display on your profile for people online to see. Maybe you could choose 5 to display, and every other achievement you've earned can be found when they click on your profile. However they do it, I just love to see achievements come here. Diddly to Gamer 7109 says, prediction, a new Smash game with 100 plus characters. Be careful what you wish for. And for our final prediction of today's video, ToxicQ5330 says, we want Batman. Yes sir, let's get the GOAT in here, we need the Bat. But anyways, that's it for this video. Do you all think F-Zero will be the Switch 2's launch title and hate me for not mentioning it? Let me know in the comments. Guys, I finally managed to do it. I made a short video. Let's go. I hope this video was enjoyable despite its short length, and now I've got plenty of time to work on my 200k special. Anyway, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.